Welcome back. Hottest show in the galaxy. That actually smiz the summer. That is the summer bop.
Yeah.
I don't even know why. It brings me joy. What doesn't bring me joy, though, I think in London they spray painted "They Not Like Us" on Drake's store there. They've defaced his store. This, y'all, keep it in the room. We ain't got to be out in them streets. Y'all stop it. Stop it.
Right, right.
Got the
It's hard to
sun.
it makes it hard to enjoy the culture when there's so many people who are not of the culture with a say, with a voice, with a presence, with a breakdown, and just getting all in the mix. Like no, that ain't come on, that ain't what this is.
Oh, you talking about DJ Vlad?
It's specifically Vlad,
Okay.
very quite
DJ
specifically
Vlad.
Vlad. But we got
Yeah.
some agents too. We got academics and who's like a little disciple of Vlad in his own way. That
Is he?
remember early on when the Chicago violence was really at an all-time high among the musicians, and there were just high murder rate. And Vic Menza had to check him face to face because he was just stoking and poking at the violence. As a form of entertainment, as if he didn't have any accountability or responsibility for the fact that you were talking about actual lives being lost. People warned him, like, don't, this isn't entertainment, dude. You're not that guy. So stop using these people's deaths as a pastime hobby to build clout. He did
Well,
it.
that is the video game culture where people can get new lives. They can power up.
Yeah. First
It's
person
all
shooter. Yeah.
virtual. You can call people the N word on these little, with your little headsets on. There's a
Yeah.
lot of keyboard gangsters out there, but I'm from a generation where you had to see people at 3 o'clock on the schoolyard, so you had to be careful what you said to the people that you said it to. I had quite a few kerfuffles myself with my mouth being the way it is, with being threatened,
Mhm.
and you have to figure out your behavior, or
Right. Right.
else. But now it's keyboard gangsters and people thinking, and it's even worse than that, because when you said that about DJ Academics, I thought about Rwanda and how folk got on the radio and stoked that violence to the tune of 800,000 lives. And they're
Right.
not just bodies. This is why even talking about Gaza is not just bombing Gaza. They're human beings, babies, children, men, women, people who are going to school, who are eating breakfast just like
Yeah.
you ate breakfast this morning. People who wanted to go to a graduation just like people right now want to go to this graduation season, going to a prom. Folk that were, was in the middle. We had in the middle of that Ramadan. People who couldn't practice their
Right.
faith. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's, and to think that they're somehow different than you because they're over
Right.
there. That to me is
Right.
is the disconnect I think so many of us have, that somehow somebody who's not from our particular tribe is not inherently fully human or deserving of our sympathy, our attention, or any of that. Shame on us, particularly those of you who call yourselves Christians. Shame on you.
Right. Right. And it's the way that we're allowing it's a cult of personality when you get people who are not even qualified to lead, getting platforms, and that's all the way from personalities to politicians, who fail up into positions of authority. Trump being no exception. You have a miserable businessman, failed game show host who becomes president in the most idiocratic way possible, and who's now seen as a legitimate, candidate once again for the presidency. So at this point in time, when all those years when we thought that in order for us to get representation for a woman or for a black person or someone who was white, for someone other than a Judeo-Christian white guy, other than JFK being a Catholic, you assumed you had to be all these things. You had to reach this market. Like surely it was going to take all these amazing. I mean, Barack Obama had to be, marketed as Jesus meets JFK in order to, get in his position. And then along comes this guy who just fails up. And so when you look at radio personality, think of all the great radio personalities that you've known. Great, Frankie, Big Bopper, like all these people who were legends at
Frankie
what they do.
Crocker. Yes, I
Crocker,
mean
yeah,
Bob. I mean, yeah.
at their crafts. That's not where it is now
Right.
with the advent of social media and podcasts that allows you to circumvent traditional terrestrial radio and kind of do your own thing and get a presence and a following, even if like you're not actually a DJ. You don't even have to really be a DJ to be called a DJ at this point,
No.
or to be seen as such. And there's a lot of people who are not about the culture. They are cultural tourists that are having a voice and a platform. And I don't know if you've noticed it or not, or how much observation you put into it. When Vlad got into it with Professor Jerkins, there wasn't any shortage of black people who were defending it.
I didn't
There
see
were
that, but
some of
maybe
us.
I don't think I follow those people because I didn't.
Oh,
That was none of that was on my timeline. So
yep,
those people that
and
were
it ain't
defending
on me
him,
now. Don't get the game twisted. Vlad got me blocked, so I couldn't even see what was on his timeline because he blocked me a hot minute ago because we already had our thing. But yeah, there was a few who was looking for extra slice of cornbread.
what do you
Katie
make of that?
from
What do you make of somebody that would part their lips because they're choices, right? If I see a situation and I've been accused of being disloyal because I didn't, challenge somebody who said something that I agreed with on my airwaves, but I wasn't going to
right,
participate because of who the person was. I wasn't going to like name call and all of that stuff because I'm like, no, I'm not
right,
going to do that. But I'm not going to tell you, grown person with an opinion that I may agree with that you're
right,
wrong, but I can be quiet in that moment. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't have to pile on. So why even participate when first of all, out of pocket, you know what I'm saying?
right,
Whether what she said, people looked at it as censorship, but she was talking from a cultural perspective. This grown folk business. It's like children
right,
should be seen and not heard. It's kind of like that. But when black folk are having a conversation among ourselves, Amy, don't come in. Jenny, don't come in
right,
with your
right,
opinion. Everything's not about you. It's okay to put your church finger up and sit on the sidelines, even if you have an opinion.
right, right.
It's not about you.
See,
I
I
got
think
that.
they feel like anything that is public domain, like if it's in the public, space, that they're
Mm-hmm.
entitled to participate in that thing. Um,
But
I
why would
guess
you want to, especially as
right,
it relates to that last Kendrick piece, which was completely about culture vultures, cultural appropriation, about being a colonizer, not a colleague. That whole thing was very inside. It was inside the
what I think is
community.
happening there's a subtext that's not being discussed where with the Kendrick versus Drake thing, which is there are some people that I've seen who are not black who have decided to lend their voice to it. There was one particular creator who said, "Don't you think that Kendrick Lamar's disses at Drake are bordering on anti-Semitic at this point?"
What?
Because he was saying,
Come
yes, he was saying
on.
that because
Come on.
he said because Kendrick Lamar said that you are not of the African American culture, that he's of Canadian Jewish lineage. She took him saying, "You're not like us," as being derisive of his Jewish heritage. And people in the comments were like, "Girl, what?" But Vlad and some of these people find these angles to wedge themselves into it. And I think that from that perspective, you find these opinions coming from left field because to some degree, you're literally illustrating his point. You're proving his point. Out of everything in that song, the one thing that you came up with is that you didn't like the mix. This man is saying that Drake is engaging in colonialism in a manner of speaking because he's not of the culture, but he cherry picks what he wants and opportunistically
And use
utilizes
the
the
N
things that he's
word
done and
with
moves
them.
on to the next thing. Drake he had to learn how to not say the N word with a hard ER, like with a hard R. He was originally saying it with a hard R. Now think about that. How many black people do you know who use the N word with a hard R? And so when there's a video clip, and I wish I could like show it to you in front of you. I'll give you the link to it a little bit later. But there's a video clip of Drake on I guess like a dating show, or where he's at a double date with these two girls and a white guy, and they're talking. He's telling them, yes. She said, I heard that the guys where you're from have this really weird way of talking, like this accent. And he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. They'll, instead of saying them, they'll say stuff like mandem. Like that's how he's talking. It's like they'll say stuff like mandem or the mandem. And she's like, ooh, that's really cool. And Drake then said, no, it's really ignorant, actually. Now, fast forward to when you get your rap career going, you start using the very same vernacular that you said was ignorant. So when did it not become? Why? When was it no longer ignorant?
When the
When you
checks came, them
right,
checks will make some stuff really make some sense. I promise
Right.
you.
Kendrick didn't say anything about him being of the culture because he's biracial. They didn't say anything because he's light skinned. It didn't say anything about him being racially ambiguous. It didn't say anything about him being Jewish. What he said was, you clearly are not of this culture that you are injecting yourself into and touring and picking and choosing what parts that you want to pick and drop. And it's disingenuous. We don't believe you. You're not like us. We don't believe you. Now, how do we know that it's not about him being biracial and it's not about him being light skinned? Because Kendrick doesn't have a problem with J. Cole. It was competitive when it was J. Cole. J. Cole is biracial. J. Cole is also African American. And so that the issue wasn't that your race, it's the fact that you are a Canadian and trying to prop yourself up as an African American when you're not, and then occasionally, I guess, throwing a little bone at his Canadian heritage. But for the most part, bro, you've gone through the African accent, you've gone through the Jamaican accent, you've gone through the Atlanta accent, you've done hyphy music, you've gone through all of these different changes. I think the last one was a electro dance music. You do whatever you need to do to make sure you sell those burgers and fries. You are the McDonald's of rap. You are not someone that we turn to for quality meals. People say, "Oh, he." And I'll give you an example. I actually have some Drake songs that if I'm doing an event or company come over, whatever, they could probably make the playlist. They are catchy songs. They're catchy, danceable songs, and that's what they're for. They're I don't always pump political
He
stuff
said Drake is
sure.
music. Drake
It
is
is,
music. You
yes,
better say
yes.
it. All right.
If I'm in Target or in some place shopping or whatever, yeah, throw some Drake Hotline Bling on. I mean, it is what it is. That's what you
Yes.
do. But when even your mentor, Lil Wayne, has to tell you when you first get signed, keep it Canadian. Don't come over here talking about guns and drugs and gang. Don't come over here doing all the things that Drake went on to do to mainstream and commercialize himself and ingratiate himself to the black audience. He did what he needed to do in order to sell himself. But I will say this, and this isn't like a defense for Drake, but I will say this part. I don't think the rap audience is the same. Like, we're not, when you see a rapper sell 10 million albums, we didn't buy all 10 million of those albums. When they get 100 million streams, we ain't stream
Uh
all that.
duh.
Yeah.
70% of rap has historically been purchased by white boys in the suburbs.
And
Period.
Daddy would always
Historically,
say,
70%.
Daddy would say, he who pays the fiddler picks the tune. So
That's true.
the people that are driving the market and paying the bills and
Right.
doing,
Right.
getting the streams,
He's
they're
serving he's serving that audience. He's serving his constituents. There's
right,
rap, but then hip hop is the culture. So
right.
there's a difference. There's a difference. 866-801-8255 is the number. Dr. Sun Michaud is here, artist, professor of language and culture, Geechee Gullah at Harvard.